Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today, we will analyze the latest developments on the battlefield in Ukraine, as well as the unexpected moves coming from the Pentagon and the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump. Taken together, these events reveal a geopolitical and military landscape in Europe that is increasingly complex and riddled with contradictions. Counteroffensive 2.0, Kyiv's Dream or Delusion. According to Western media, specifically the Wall Street Journal, the Zelensky administration is urgently preparing for a new counteroffensive. The objective is nothing short of ambitious: to reclaim all territories seized by Russia since 2014, including Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and even Crimea. But does Ukraine truly have the capacity to achieve this? According to NATO military doctrine, a single corps requires roughly 1,400 tanks, 2,000 infantry fighting vehicles, 700 artillery pieces, and 45,000 to 50,000 troops. To retake 5 regions simultaneously, Ukraine would need to mobilize dozens of corps, amounting to nearly 1 million soldiers. Such a figure is virtually unattainable under the current circumstances. We may recall that in the summer of 2023, Ukraine mobilized 160,000 troops along with thousands of modern weapons to launch a counteroffensive on the southern front. And the outcome? The operation collapsed, resulting in heavy losses. By the spring of 2025, Russia had already regained full control of the entire region. Russia expands control. The battlefield trembles. While Kyiv still dreams of reclaiming lost territories, Moscow is steadily consolidating its advantage. According to the latest report from the Russian Ministry of Defense, in just the past few months, they have seized over 4,700 square kilometers of territory and taken control of more than 200 settlements, 3,300 square kilometers of which are in the Donetsk front alone. One telling example is the city of Kupiansk in Kharkiv province. Ukrainian media have admitted that fighting has already reached the city center, with Kyiv's forces virtually out of reserves to hold the line. Ukraine's main brigades have suffered losses of up to 70%, while Russia continues to expand its offensive across the entire Dnipro-Zaporizhia front. If key strongholds such as Novopavlivka or Orikhiv were to fall, Ukraine's western defensive line would collapse, opening the way for Russian forces to advance directly toward the left bank of the Dnipro River, an area dense with strategic industrial facilities. This underscores how the balance of the battlefield is increasingly tilting in Moscow's favor. Against this backdrop, President Trump's words and actions have only added to the complexity. Within just a few days, he first labeled Russia a paper tiger, only to change his tone and insist that Washington had no desire to insult Moscow. What drew even more attention was his meeting with Zelensky in New York, where Trump hinted at the possibility of supplying Tomahawk cruise missiles, long-range weapons with a reach of up to 1,600 kilometers, capable of striking Moscow and even the Kremlin itself. Yet, analysts widely believe this is little more than an empty promise, perhaps even a way of teasing Zelensky. After all, even close U.S. allies such as Japan and the Netherlands have only recently gained access to Tomahawks. For Ukraine to acquire such weapons would almost certainly be perceived by Russia as direct American involvement, a scenario the White House clearly seeks to avoid. Thus, Zelensky's declaration may well be more of a PR maneuver aimed at amplifying the shock value of Trump's remarks, rather than a reflection of any realistic prospect. The Pentagon's secret meeting, an unusual signal. Even more striking is the report that the U.S. Secretary of Defense convened an emergency meeting at the Marine Corps base in Quantico, Virginia. Nearly 800 senior officers, generals and above, from across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia were required to attend. This move is unprecedented. Some experts have voiced concern over the security risks of concentrating virtually the entire high command in a single location. Yet President Trump downplayed the significance, dismissing it as nothing more than a wonderful event. Analysts suggest that Washington may be preparing to restructure its command system, potentially reducing its footprint in Europe in order to pivot toward the Pacific, where China is viewed as the primary challenge. This reinforces the perception that the Trump administration sees Ukraine as Europe's burden rather than a strategic priority for the United States. In summary, the current landscape reveals the following. Russia is steadily consolidating its advantage on the battlefield. Ukraine continues to pursue the dream of a counteroffensive, yet faces severe limitations in manpower and equipment. Meanwhile, under President Trump, the United States is sending mixed signals, projecting toughness against Moscow, while simultaneously hinting at a strategic pullback from Europe, shifting the burden onto NATO. Against this backdrop, the critical question remains, can Kiev still hope to alter the course of the war? Or is this destined to become a prolonged conflict with ever-mounting losses? This is the question the world will be watching closely in the months ahead. Thank you for following our analysis. Don't forget to support the channel so we can continue delivering the most timely and in-depth geopolitical and military insights. Farewell, and see you next time.